Hey James, what's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? How are you doing tonight, Silas?
Oh man, I'm doing all right actually, man. I'm doing pretty good, man. I had a pretty mellow day. I was just kind of kicked it around and man got out, enjoyed some night air with the fellas and walked the whole yard and had some interesting conversations, man. And yeah, I mean I'm feeling pretty good, man. My spirits are high.
That's good. That's good. That's always it's always good to be in that type of mind frame, if you will.
Yeah, so yeah, man. So I've been doing a little bit of taking a break from my course studies and just going back to some of like some of the study material, a lot of the things that have helped me, in my recovery. And yeah, I was just going over this book from Jordan B. Peterson, 12 Rules for Life, an antidote to chaos. And yeah, the brother's he's a clinician and a psychologist, and like there's some gems in this book, and I was just it's kind of crazy like how when we go through our experiences in life, we think that we're the only ones that are experiencing this in life, and like the probably the most valuable information that I've received, other than I mean my lived experience and my formal academic education, has been through reading and interfacing through reading with, through other individuals' experiences, particularly psychologists. And I never would have imagined that 20 years ago that I would have something in common that, with this guy, a Canadian psychologist, or even, like one of the greats, well, I consider a great psychotherapist, Sheldon B. Cobb. He wrote the book. I don't know if anybody's out there familiar. He wrote the book, If You Meet the Buddha on the Road, Kill Him. And yeah, I mean, the title is obviously, pretty aggressive, but it's one of the more beautiful books that I've ever read, man. It really, really helped me when I was in a dark place. And it's just about self-realization and self-responsibility and just going through the journey of life and relating to all of the struggles that we endure as human beings, whether it be interpersonal relationships or just being sick, like sickness, illness, confronting illness, or even our own mortality. Like, you know, I never would have imagined that I would have had something in common with an old Jewish shrink. So, I mean, it just shows you like just the beauty of education, whether it be self, you're a self starter or just academic, you know. Yeah, so yeah, I was digging in the crates, man, and going through some old material, and I figured I share a little bit, share a little bit of the wealth with the viewers, with the listeners out there tonight. How you feel about that?
I'm definitely game for that. Yeah, uh, anything like that, I'm definitely up for. I know you mentioned him in the past and whatnot, and I would be lying if I said that I actually looked him up or whatnot. But um, I think now that you're bringing him up again, I'm definitely gonna listen to him on Audible. It'll be a lot easier than sitting down and trying to read this book. Audible is I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but like books, instead of reading them, you download this app. It's through Amazon, and they'll pretty much just read the book to you, and then you can listen to it like where you're driving or jogging or doing stuff around the house. So it kind of frees your time up, let you do two things at once, if you will.
Yeah, that's that 21st century jargon, man. I'm low tech in here, man. I'm bare bones. I'm thumbing through pages, man. Like that's next you're gonna be telling me you hopped into your flying car on the way to the interview, man.
Man, it's just a matter of time. That's the way this world is definitely heading. But before you start, dropping the gems on us, I want to go ahead and give give some shout outs right here to our supporters. And we're going to start off right now with Mad Max 408. And then we have M Star Media. And let me see who else we have in here. And then M Star actually put, I used to listen to Peterson. So she is familiar with this Arthur. And we have
Okay.
a Lice Man in here. And let me see what else do we have.
What's up, Ice?
So they're definitely probably top three to four supporters, and it doesn't go unrecognized. So a big shout out to them.
Exactly. Yeah, we definitely appreciate all of you following through and supporting the message. Absolutely. This wouldn't be possible without all of you ladies and gentlemen listening. So, and we really appreciate that.
All right, and then also I know I mentioned to you about about getting some GTA 5 mock-ups with kind of like your picture or your features. So I went ahead and uploaded that as the as the thumbnail, and I'll be sending those images over to you so you could kind of like trip out on with technology and what AI is doing to images and whatnot, and you tell me if you think that it looks like you or I went a little bit overboard on the imaging and whatnot.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll definitely let you know, man. I'm preparing to be freaked out.
And then also D, let me see, what was it? Where's the D Smith said, "What up, Cuzzo? We in here."
What up, cousin? Yeah, that's my cousin right there, man. That's my fam right there. What up, cousin? Absolutely, man.
So you could go ahead and take over the mic whenever you're ready.
Okay, yeah.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
So, yeah, I was actually, this book, the quotes that I'm going to be going through is from Jorden B. Peterson, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. It's an international bestseller. Like I said, Jorden B. Peterson is a professor of psychology at University of Toronto, and he's actually from Alberta, Canada. And yeah, like there are things in here in this book. I mean, there are 12 rules in here, as the title states, and a lot of these things resonated with me, and are really profound. And this book actually means a lot to me. Somebody actually gifted this book to me, who was a facilitator for the Alternative to Violence Project. And yeah, he really went out of his way to make sure I got this, so I really appreciate that. And so shout out to him for shedding a little light on me with this. So the first thing I want to go through is, and James, feel free to stop me at any time and shoot a question or comment, or if the listeners have any questions, by all means.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I'll definitely do that.
Okay. I'm going to hang up and give a call right back.
Okay, perfect. But before you go, Lisa just dropped in, so she said she put, "Hey, babe."
What's up, baby? That's your fiance. She always supporting. What's up, baby?
That's right. Yeah, she's definitely
Right,
a keeper right there. She's always in here too. So really appreciate Lisa, coming in and supporting you.
Absolutely. All right, so I'll give a call right back, and then we'll start.
Perfect. All right, so the call was about to cut off, so he's gonna go ahead and call us back shortly. And I do see a comment from a Liceman, and I'll definitely read that off as soon as Silas calls us back. And we'll be on at least tonight for at least another hour. I know earlier on I said that I was gonna have Ricky come on, but I went back and I looked at the messages, and I realized that today is not Sunday; that is actually Saturday, and that call we had set up is for tomorrow.
This call is
This
now
is
being
Global
recorded.
Tel-Link. You have a prepaid call from
Silas Johnson.
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel-Link.
All right, Silas. Thank you for calling us back. And then Eliasman just dropped a message on us right now, right before you got off the line, and then he puts on here, "It's great to hear Silas, and the way you articulate yourself in the English vocabulary is awesome way to listen to a testament in his hard work to better himself and transform."
Hey, I appreciate that, Elias, man, sincerely, man. Thank you for the love, man. Before I get started, I do want to give a correction to the record. I got in a little trouble at home. When we were talking a few times ago, you had asked me about how I published my book. And I believe that I stated it in my original stories where I was just going through, my history. But in that recording, I kind of like glossed over, kind of just went through the process and glossed over it. And what was brought to my attention is that I failed to mention someone very important to me that helped me through my publication process. Obviously, my fiance Lisa is the love of my life and my number one supporter and, my backbone and all of this. And through my publication process, I got in contact with my publisher, Numa Springs, and inquired and sent my manuscript to them. But everything after that was actually Lisa working with me, as a go-between for my publication director, Lee. And shout out to Lee Prodovnak, who was my publication director and helped me bring this to fruition. But Lisa is actually the one who helped me through the publication process, and I would not be a published author had it not been for this beautiful woman and everything that she has done for me and everything that she has meant for me. So I absolutely want to bring a correction to the record and give my queen her acknowledgement and her due and her flowers, because she's deserving of that and so much more. So I love you, sweetheart, and I truly appreciate you, and thank you for being by my side through this.
That's right, Silas. Can't forget about those strong women that hold us down and help us move forward, and like yourself too. I definitely want to give a shout out to my wife. She's pushed me to do this. I brought up the idea to her and she told me go for it, and here we are. So definitely want to recognize those people that are helping us move forward.
Absolutely, no doubt, man, no doubt.
All right,
So,
and then but before you continue, let me. Lisa put thanks, babe. I love you.
I love you too, mama. Okay, yeah, so during a conversation, actually during the course of a couple conversations that a couple of the fellas and I have had on here on the facility, Ricky Black and Jesse, David, we were going through actually the nuances of what it takes to live in general population and the everyday grind, like on your body, and obviously, there comes a toll, like, there's, for those of us, that have committed violence on these yards and been involved in the politics and all of the madness, there's an immediate, physical toll from confrontations. But we got to talking, and we were talking about, like, the physical impact from a physiological, a biological standpoint, and just the stresses that are on your brain and, on your body every day, living in an environment where anything can happen at any given time. I mean, and you got to have your shoes on, your mat rolled up. Even in your cell, you got to have your kicks on, your boots laced up, because the door can pop and anything can happen. And there's a cost. There's a cost for that. There's a psychological and emotional cost, absolutely. But there's a physical cost. There's an unseen cost that a lot of us are just now acknowledging. And like I said, a lot of times when you go through things, you feel like you're the only one, and so it's almost like, maybe I'm just, not being, like strong enough. My cousin Damien and I, we talked earlier, about, as men, how we kind of sweep things under the rug as far as our health, as far as our psyche, because we think that, that we're supposed to be able to endure anything. And so we really don't practice that self-care, So I read this in Rule 1, in the book, in 12 Rules for Life, and it's actually called, the rule is called Stand Up with Your Shoulders Back. And the chapter is about, it's about putting yourself in a position mentally and physically and spiritually to win, to walk around as a victor, instead of walking around with your shoulders hunched like you're losing. And he talks about how our self-concepts of ourselves are formed, whether it be personally or socially, with our environment, with our station in life, socially, politically, and all of that has an effect on how you see yourself and how you interact with the world. And so I'm reading this obviously in the context of not only someone in prison, but in someone in the lower economic level, community, someone that's from a marginalized community. And so I hope you guys can resonate with this. So
this call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
From here on out, this is a quote until I say end quote. We ain't trying to get sued. There's an unspeakably primordial calculator deep within you, at the very foundation of your brain, far below your thoughts and feelings. It monitors exactly where you are positioned in society on a scale of 1 to 10 for the sake of argument. If you're number 1, the highest level of status, you're an overwhelming success. If you're male, you have preferential access to the best places to live and the highest quality food. People compete to do you favors. You have limitless opportunity for romantic and sexual contact. You are a successful lobster, and the most desirable females line up to vie for your attention. If you're female, you have access to many high-quality suitors, tall, strong, and symmetrical, creative, reliable, honest, and generous. And like your dominant male counterpart, you will compete ferociously, even pitilessly, to maintain or improve your position in the equally competitive female mating hierarchy. Although you are less likely to use physical aggression to do so, there are many effective verbal tricks and strategies at your disposal, including the disparaging of opponents, and you may well be expert at their use. If you are low status 10 by contrast, male or female, you have nowhere to live or nowhere good. Your food is terrible when you're not going hungry. You're in poor physical and mental condition. You're of minimal romantic interest to anyone unless they are as desperate as you. You're more likely to fall ill, age rapidly, and die young, with few, if any, to mourn you. Even money itself may prove of little use. You won't know how to use it because it is difficult to use money properly, particularly if you are unfamiliar with it. Money will make you liable to the dangerous temptations of using drugs and alcohol, which are much more rewarding if you have been deprived of pleasure for a long period. Money will also make you a target for predators and psychopaths who thrive on exploiting those who exist on the lower rungs of society. The bottom of the dominance hierarchy is a terrible, dangerous place to be. The ancient part of your brain specialized for assessing dominance watches how you are treated by other people. On that evidence, It renders a determination of your value and assigns you a status. If you are judged by your peers as of little worth, the counter restricts serotonin availability. That makes you more physically and psychologically reactive to any circumstance or event that might produce emotion, particularly if it's negative. You need that reactivity. Emergencies are common at the bottom, and you must be ready to survive. Okay, here's something in quote. Here's something that I found particularly interesting and relative to lower economic levels in society, as well as prison. And then I'll begin, quote. Unfortunately, that physical hyper-response, that constant alertness burns up a lot of precious energy and physical resources. This response is really what everyone calls stress, and it is by no means only or even primarily psychological. It's a reflection of the genuine constraints of unfortunate circumstances. When operating at the bottom, the ancient brain counter-assumes that even the smallest unexpected impediment might produce an uncontrollable chain of negative events, which will have to be handled alone, as useful friends are rare indeed on society's fringes. You will therefore continually sacrifice what you could otherwise physically store for the future, using it up on heightened readiness and immediate panicked action in the present. When you don't know what to do, you must be prepared to do anything and everything in case it becomes necessary. I want to stop right there, end quote. I want to stop right there and repeat that. For everybody that's lived in the hood or walked in a county jail or a prison yard, quote, when you don't know what to do, you must be prepared to do anything and everything in case it becomes necessary, end quote. That particularly struck home for me because in a volatile environment, you are ready to do whatever you have to do in order to survive until the next time you have to do the same thing. I can remember in general population sitting in the cell and there'd be...
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And it's just like sitting there idling in a car, and pressing the gas with the brake on, like, your stress levels and just everything is just going crazy. And there were times that I would be anxious and afraid. But the only thing worse than the actual physical confrontation of violence on the yard would be the wait, having to wait to see if it was going to occur. And as crazy as this sounds, when violence finally broke out on the yard and I was actually able to participate and to do and defend and do whatever I had to do, it was almost a relief because the level of stress of the waiting for something to happen took such a toll physically and mentally. And so I just wanted to point that out. And I'm pretty sure, like in neighborhoods, in people's hoods or barrios out there, it's the same thing. When you're living day to day and you're living in a dangerous environment and your stress levels are just so high and I mean you're in survival mode. I mean, in psychology they call that the reptilian part of our brain. It's just instinct. It's just acting, fight or flight. To live in that space, mentally can tear you down, and I'm talking about PTSD, ulcers, like the physical consequences of heightened, sustained stress is real. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I just wanted to touch on that. And I'll read the rest of this, and after that, you can chime in, James. Quote. You're sitting in your car with the gas and brake pedals both punched to the mat. Too much of that and everything falls apart. The ancient counter will even shut down your immune system, expending the energy and resources required for future health now during the crisis of the present. It will render you impulsive so that you will jump, for example, at any short-term mating opportunities.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Or any possibilities of pleasure, no matter how subpar, disgraceful, or illegal. It will leave you far more likely to live or die carelessly for a rare opportunity of pleasure when it manifests itself. The The physical demands of emergency preparedness will wear you down in every way. So yeah. So I was just interested if the viewers had any opinion on that or any feedback on that, as well as you, James, if you had any questions. We're about to time out right now, so what I'm going to do is hang up and give you a call back, and we'll go from there.
All right, great. Well, we'll be here waiting, and I don't think we have any questions yet from the audience, but I definitely have a comment or two to make about what you just read.
Okay. All right.
All right, so the 15-minute call just came to an end. He should be cutting us shortly, and I see Eliasman just put a comment up, and I'll go ahead and read that off as soon as he gets back on, which shouldn't be that much longer. And once again, I want to go ahead and let you guys know that I definitely appreciate you guys coming in and listening to these conversations. I know you guys could be doing a bunch of other things or watching a bunch of other different comments. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to these conversations.
This call is now being recorded. You have a prepaid call from
Silas Johnson.
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
All right, so right now, hello. Right now, when the call got disconnected, Iceman dropped a message on here. So let me go ahead and read it off. He puts, let's not forget the physiological and trauma that the correctional officers and street cops endure on a daily basis.
Oh, absolutely, man. Like that. I mean, that he brings up a good point, a valid point. There's a lot of truth in that. Like, I've been anti-authority and anti-law enforcement for most of my life, and in that, the thing that was missing is I failed to acknowledge that these people are people with the same fears, the same shortcomings, the same anxieties, the same, putting a badge on somebody or putting a gavel in the judge's hands don't remove the condition of being a human being, and you're right, like, whether it be a homicide detective or a CO in here, I mean, that constantly experiences, violence in here. I mean, there's no way to unsee the things that you see in here, and you're absolutely right. These correctional officers and administrators, they take this stuff home with them. There's no way that you can compartmentalize this. And I would be sad for the ones that do, because when I did, I lost my humanity in here when I did. I was able to do terrible things to people once I just started putting my feelings away and started compartmentalizing, protecting myself emotionally and mentally from the violence that I saw and that I enacted. It enabled me to make violence, permissive and allow me to do some of the terrible things that I've done in here. So, yeah, I think it's a terrible thing that it affects them and affects the residents in here. But I think it's also a good thing too, because that means that your humanity is still intact.
Yeah, I want to touch on a comment that you made, or from what you were reading, where you said something along the lines of, how we have a heightened sense of awareness when we're like in these neighborhoods or barrios or whatnot, and I don't live in Los Angeles. I haven't lived in Los Angeles in quite some time. Um, but those senses that or those alerts that you get that your body gives you, when there's certain people around or where you there might be some danger, that you never lose because pretty much now I live in the suburbs now. But when I'm out and about, I'm always, my head's always on the swivel, making sure, that that I'm not a victim. It's and everywhere I go. Like when I'm at home, I make sure my doors are closed. And my daughter doesn't have that. She doesn't have that fear of somebody, trying to, bust the door down or those things because she's never experienced something like that. But me, when it comes to, like my security in my home, I always make sure my doors are closed, my garage door is closed, my back door is closed. I got a secondary lock on my sliding door on in the that goes out to the backyard. And when I jump into my car, I always make sure I lock my doors. Or somebody's coming up that's unfamiliar. I make sure I keep my eye on them to make sure they're not up to no good. So those things, even though I'm not in the environment anymore, that's something that's instilled in me that you never lose. So yeah,
So, so
these.
for
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
all the viewers and listeners out there, the hood turns you into a superhero. We're pretty much freaking Spider-Man with our Spidey senses on.
It's funny too. Like I'll be on the freeway, and then I'll just be looking around, boom, and I can spot a cop. And then I'll tell my daughter, hey, like there goes a cop. She's like, how do you know? I just know. Like there's just something about cop cars, whether they have lights or not, or if they have the license plates. I could point them out. Nine out of 10 times. So yeah, you have all these extra abilities that really, I guess, like for my environment, they really don't really serve a purpose. But you just never know. So I'm always, always looking at, checking on my surroundings and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And like you said, like that's long lasting. I'm I'm at the end of this tenure. Whether I get a grant in December or whether it be the next time, or you know, um, but I'm cognizant of the fact I do a lot of work in with my family and obviously with with my fiance, and we go through things and have conversations, and I know that this experience has affected me, and I know that the effects of this are going to be long lasting. Like I'll be home 5 years, and I anticipate some of the, like you said, some of the hypervigilance, or some of that to stay with me. I've been trained mentally. I've trained myself to be this way for so long that it's going to be difficult to try and to become untethered to all of that. And it's just I think it's just if you keep a handle on it and you recognize it and you understand that and I mean, hell, to be honest with you, to be candid, I mean, hell, the world's crazy as hell out there now. I mean, some of my instincts may serve me. If somebody goes in a supermarket and just starts shooting people at random, I mean, the world is just nuts out there. So, I mean, in a way, I don't want to lose it.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like some of these stories you be hearing about these type of events that take place, and people are streaming them. They're strapping they're putting helmets on with cameras and whatnot, and it just streaming for so the world could see it. So a lot of the stuff that's going on, it just leaves me scratching my head sometimes. Just doesn't make any sense, whatsoever.
Yeah, like people don't want to be like movie stars anymore. Well, I mean, they do, but I mean, people will settle for infamy. They'll settle for killing somebody on camera just so they could be a news article. Just a headline. Like it's nuts. Like it's really crazy to see the byproduct of this age of information, this social media. This whole generation. It's really surreal to see all of this from a distance, to be able to have a bird's eye view and to be removed from it and to just watch all of this madness take place. it's like yeah, it's pretty surreal, man. I'll say that for sure.
And Eliasman just dropped a message right now or a comment, and he put, "I've been out since 1990 and still dealing with anxiety." That's definitely a real thing.
I mean, there you go. I mean, that's 33 years, man. Like, like I when I was I got in trouble when I was 16, and I was 15. I had caught my first case. I had sold dope to an LAPD undercover, and so I got knocked for that. And I got put on probation, and I'll never forget James Drew, my probation officer. He he told me that yeah, if you get in trouble again, you're gonna go to camp, and camp is pretty fun. Kids have fun in camp. It's not too serious. If you get in trouble again, you go to YA, and you're a small kid, you're pretty skinny, but you look like you can handle yourself. You'll probably be all right in YA. But if you get out and you mess up after that, you're gonna go to prison, and the things you'll have to do to survive there, you'll never be the same. Like, this is 1993 that this dude told me that, and 30 years later, I still remember it because it's one of the greater truisms that I've ever been given my whole life. Like, this shit changes you. It does, and I've changed. I've reverted back to a lot of the values and ethics that my father and my grandfather taught me as a kid that I got away from when I went out to the streets. But this place, this experience, like it changes you forever. So I definitely feel you guys.
Yeah. Looking back on everything that you've been through in prison, do you think it was worth it?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I have a hard time thinking of anything that's been worth it. Like, throughout this whole journey, I think if the only thing that can justify this whole experience is how I live the rest of my life and how I end my life. That's the only thing that I can do to justify this experience that I'm living right now and that I've lived. I mean, is to be of service to people, is to educate myself as best I can, to be the best son, to be the best brother, to be the best cousin, to be the best husband that I can to my lady. That's the only thing that I can do. Go out there in the world and really, really make an impact on people's lives, make a positive impact on people's lives. That's the only thing that I can do to justify this experience and make it worth it. And even then, it won't be worth it until it's all over, you know. And I'm not even the judge of that, So yeah, that's a good question, man. But as far as like the superficial reasons, like the BS that we put in our heads, it absolutely was not worth it. There's been no profit from where I came from. The only profit.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Yeah, the only profit is in where I'm going.
I'm not sure if I asked you this question before or not, but if I did, if you don't mind answering it again, but do you think you went to prison to find a better version of yourself?
I absolutely believe that I found myself in here. When I came to prison, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know, my wants, my needs, my desires, my dreams, my goals, my ambitions. I didn't have any character. All of the values that I had, were bits and pieces of things that I picked up. My whole character, my whole personality, my persona was just bits and pieces that I pulled from different people that I'd met along the way, throughout my journey. So, yeah, I found my passion in here. I found my wife in here. I found, the things that I want. I became an artist in here. I became a writer. I became an academic in here. I became a philanthropist in here. Like I'm practicing altruism in here through my work with the Alternative to Violence Project. I've done so many things, towards self-realization and becoming who I was meant to be and realizing my potential. So I absolutely believe that, as horrible as some of these parts of this experience have been, I believe that in coming in here, I found myself and I found my purpose. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I could definitely tell that uh, uh, the prison system and everything you've been through has had a huge effect on the way you think, and I'm sure your thinking is way different than when you originally came into the system as a young
You
man.
have 60 seconds remaining.
Because what are you going on now? Like what, 22 years or 22 years, right? That you're going in incarcerate.
February February 20, February 23rd, it'd be 23 years.
Yeah, it's definitely a long time. It's a huge chunk of time. Um, Man, I can't even think about how many things I've done in the last 23 years that it's different. Like in prison, you get into a set program and that's what you deal with. But in the real world, it's a lot different. How many times I've changed uh,
When
from then and now.
when I got knocked, James, when I got arrested, I had a cell phone, but I had a beeper too. Right, like that's how long it's been since I got knocked, man. Like it's a trip, man. It's just a trip. Just
All right, so the call went ahead and got disconnected, and he should be calling back shortly. And once he does call back, we'll go ahead and continue with the conversation. But right now that he mentioned pagers or a beeper, I remember back in those days, um, we used to try to find I guess pager stores that would offer pager services. Hold on.
This call is now being
This is
recorded.
Global Tel Link. You have a prepaid call from
Silas Johnson.
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
So thank you for calling back, Silas. So right now, when you said pager or beeper, it jogged the memory in my mind from back in those days when I did have a beeper, and I remember we would always try to find like locations that had like deals on, like, if you paid up front, like if you paid 3 months up, it would be like $20 for 90 days, and yeah, that's what that's just popped in my head. And or having that Motorola, the like, if you had like the pager with the screen on the top, you were like outdated. You needed to have that screen, that Motorola with the 3 buttons in the front. That was
Yeah.
that was the latest and greatest right there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man. Like when I got arrested, like the yellow, like, was it the Nextel, the chirps? I think that's what was like the hot thing back then. Like that was like fresh. That was new.
Yeah, everybody had them. I remember everybody having them. And right now that you mentioned those the Boost Mobiles, that's the one where they used to say, "Where you at?" Um,
Yeah, exactly.
I remember this one time
Exactly.
we got stopped right there by like close to downtown LA, and that was like a stronghold for a local neighborhood there. And I remember like these dudes just popping out the window, looking at us. You see them jumping on the chirp, chirping like their homies, like, "Hey, they got some dudes pulled over here." they don't look like they're from around here, and all these dudes just came out in force. They had us, the cops had us on the sidewalk. These dudes are popping off from windows. Some other dudes are starting to stroll down the street, and I'm like, oh man, like this is about to get real bad for us. And then and then
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
the cops take off, and they're like, hey, good luck to you guys. And I'm like, oh man, we got to jump in our car and
Yeah.
get out of Dodge ASAP, because it's these fools are gonna come scoop us off the floor soon. If we don't get out of here fast enough.
So you got 2 checkpoints to pass.
Yeah, the cops are scandalous. In LA during that time. Hopefully they've gotten better, but man, it was all bad. You were catching it from all sides. Whether it was the cops or I wouldn't even say the opposition, because I wasn't even involved in that. But that didn't matter. Like if they didn't care if you look a certain way and you had a certain a way, certain, you carry yourself a certain way, then you had it coming your way too.
Exactly. Yeah. People aren't checking for IDs and membership cards.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So we got a question from Elias Man, and he put let me see. He said, ask Silas if he read Malcolm X and Malcolm X biography and George Jackson. Also, does he serve Jesus Christ?
Yeah, I've read Malcolm when I was in the SHU. I read Malcolm X's biography. I read George Jackson. I read Eldridge Cleaver. Like all of the brothers from back then. I mean, that's like required reading for all of us. That's a tool of indoctrination when you come in here. It's to educate, but it's more so to kind of like ply you with black nationalism, so you can be kind of wielded as a weapon. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I've definitely read all of those. Another book I read that was particularly impactful during my stay in Corcoran SHU was Jimmy Santiago Baca, Place to Stand. I always get his name mixed up. Jimmy Santiago Baca. The name of the book is A Place to Stand. It's a beautiful book about a brother from Arizona and his formative years, his life story, his time in prison, and just everything that he went through. If you haven't read it, I really, really, really highly recommend it. Yeah. So as far as my spirituality, I'm a spiritual person. I don't consider myself to be a religious person. My spirituality kind of derives from, my intrinsic feeling of oneness with the rest of the world, and be it, mankind or nature or any living creature, the universe, and I derive my strength and my sense of myself in the world from my father, who's no longer here, from my grandfather who's no longer here, my grandparents, the people, all of the people that came before me, that struggled for me to have this opportunity. I draw strength from them. So yeah, so that's my sense of spirituality. I do, I've gone through this journey. I've gone from a theist to agnostic through dark periods of atheism back to where I am now, and I believe that I'm at a point where I believe spiritually that that we're all here for a purpose. I just don't get into the who used to serve or who's right or who's wrong. I'm more in tune with just the beauty of the journey, and trying to answer the questions that I can answer in this life, if that makes any sense.
Thank you for that, Silas. And I just looked at that book right now that you mentioned, A Place to Stand, and it's Jimmy Santiago Baca. So yeah, you
Okay.
got it. And I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you right now about those books, about like Malcolm X and George Jackson. Are those books looked at like by the administration as books that, or are they banned like in certain prisons because maybe the administration says that it radicalizes black population?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Blood in My Eyes, the Soledad Brothers, not Malcolm X, but the CDCR has a matrix, uh, a list of books that are banned, and they are considered, whether it be, Aryan based or, Chicano based or black nationalists or considered black nationalism. I mean, they have a matrix, a list of books that they disallow in prisons. Fortunately, over the last 10 or so years, they've kind of eased up on that, and realized that information in and of itself is not a weapon. It's the way that the way that you internalize information and employ it. If you look at Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, I mean, that in and of itself is it's valuable information. But I mean, I've seen cats try and read that book and go out on the yard and try and implement some of these tools that are taught in the book, and they go on the road to ruin. So, what I mean? So, information in and of itself is not dangerous. I believe that information should be shared, even the point of view that I don't agree with. Some of the most interesting conversations that I've had was probably with a Nazi lowrider in Tehachapi Shoe. I mean, we've had some really interesting conversations. My neighbor, and we go to the yard cages and we talk, and our political and philosophical views were in direct contradiction. But I just thought it was really interesting to see the other side, and for it to understand, not to agree with his point of view, but to hear how he felt and to hear how he came to this point. How he was resolved, how he was resolute in his belief system. Like, that's fascinating to me, and I think that's something that's missing in political discourse right now. I think most people in the political spectrum believe that if they take the time to listen to someone from quote unquote the other side, that they're losing something in their point of view, or they're somehow complicit in their counterparts' point of view. And I think it's the opposite. I think that's the way to compromise if you learn alternative points of view. I think that's beautiful.
Right now, I kind of want to get off topic. Right now that you mentioned that you had an interaction with a NLR member, um, did you? I have two questions. The first one would be in the black car during when you were on the main line. How common was it to see Hispanics or a brown man, be part of a black gang, and how was their experience, when they would get to the main line? What was expected of them?
I've heard, coming into prison, I've heard that if there was if there was a a, a Mexican gang member and he was from a black gang, that there would be issues on the line, and there would be, they would try and take off on him, and it would start a whole thing. I actually have seen probably 4 or 5 different Mexican guys from black gangs, blood and crip gangs, and been on the yard, and nothing has occurred. There was one time in Kern Valley where there was a tense situation with there was a Asian and white that was a blood. He was from Sacramento, and he came to the yard, and so there was kind of like some rumblings about that. But I mean, all of us, we strapped up and walked over to the white table, and it's just like, hey, this is what it is, and like, if there's an issue, well, then let's set it right now, and that there was no problem after that. He stayed on the yard, and but I do know I have heard of incidents where, obviously, where white blood or Crips have been attacked on yards, and yeah. So I mean, they're definitely
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
there have definitely been incidents, but now, like even as recently as 3 years ago, you see blacks and Mexican gangs, Mexicans and black gangs, and they're just there on the yard, and that's just what it is.
And thank you. Appreciate you answering that question. And then when it comes to the black car, do they dictate who you're able to interact with? So if you wanted to go talk to a white inmate or a Hispanic inmate, would you catch any blowback if you interacted with anybody from from outside your race that wasn't part of either a gang or a car?
You know, it's really I'm glad that you asked that question. That's a really good question. Coming to prison, like I mean, you obviously experience racism in here because everything is divided by ethnicity. But the irony of that is that the whites, and the whites and the Mexicans, and then even the others, the Asians or the indigenous, which I call the natives, they're like, out of all of the cars, like the blacks are, I won't even say probably, they are the most permissive ethnicity as far as race relations. It's a trip. Like
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I'll give you a call back right now. Finish my answer.
Okay, we'll be waiting here.
Okay.
All right, and then always remember, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and type them up, and definitely, I'll go ahead and pass the message on to Silas. And if you're not comfortable, asking any questions in the chat, you're always more than welcome to reach out to him on a one-to-one individual basis, and you could do that by downloading the GTL Getting Out app.
This call
This
is now being
Global
recorded.
Tel-Link. You have a prepaid call from
Silas Johnson.
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel-Link.
Thank you for calling back, Silas.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So to answer your question, to finish answering your question, yeah, blacks, Africans on the yard are probably the most permissive as far as race relations. The only issue would be like business, like if and just overall, respect. Like if you're dealing with somebody from another race or from another ethnicity, I hate to say race because there's only one race, the human race. If you're dealing with someone from another ethnicity, then you better have your shit together. If you're doing business with somebody, it better be above board, and you better have it right. If you're conversing with someone from another ethnicity, you better be respectful, and it better be, it better be above board. But as far as that, there are no restrictions as far as you can't do business with these dudes, you can't talk to these dudes. Obviously, there are restrictions with the northern Mexicans, the southern Mexicans, and the whites. So obviously, you're admonished, hey, keep in mind that these are against their rules, So don't get one of them in a wreck when you're dealing with them, you know. But as far as restrictions, as long as you're respectful, you know, and you're doing everything by the rules, you know, over you know on a yard, then there's really no constrictions. Like there was like a joke, like an open joke between all of us, like you can do anything on the main line if you were black, except for tell, be a rapist, a child molester, or an elder abuser. Besides that, you can do anything. Like we have the most agency. Like there's obviously there's a
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
and you know there's a hierarchy, you know, of sorts, but the hierarchy is different than you would say the Southern Mexicans. In 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 the black car, it's a meritocracy, and what I mean by that is you earn your position. You don't, you know, your uncle isn't a brother, and then you know you get tapped one day, or there's not some 25-year-old kid who doesn't know shit running the yard because of who his dad is or something like it doesn't go like that in the black community. You earn your position on the yard. I have tattoos on me that I earned by putting in work on the yard. It's a different experience in the black car, you know. So, but yeah, as far as race relations, when I first came to prison, I hit the yard in O2 in Salinas Valley on CR, and I bumped into a buddy of mine from Pacoima. He's actually from the Van Nuys boys, and I seen him on the yard. This is like my second day on the yard, so I don't know shit. I just know where the boundaries are. This is their area, this is our area, and I'm just getting my bearings. But I saw him on the yard, and I walked by him, and I was so surprised to see him because I hadn't seen him since like the 10th grade. And so he was walking with somebody else from Pacoima, but I didn't know the guy that he was walking with. And so he looked at me, and his eyes lit up, and I looked up, and I just gave him a hug. You know, like, this is my friend, you know, like. And so when I did, my older homie, who was actually, he was my cellie later, you know, he was kind of standing there, and he didn't interject. And he was like, after I hugged him, he was standing there and like talking to me, but he's looking around like, you know, kind of nervous, and you know, he's distracted. So and he's like, yeah, well, I'm going to talk to you. And he keeps walking off. And so I asked, you know, my older homie, like, you know, hey, like, you know, like, what was that? And he was like, well, you know, man, you probably, you know, you shouldn't do that. Like, you'll get him in trouble with these people. And I'm like, what do you mean I'll get him in trouble with people? You know, I know him. Like that's my friend. Like, we're not doing a drug transaction, because I knew that drug deals and all of that was, you know, was against the rules for them. And so he was like, yeah, but, you know, you're not supposed to do that, you know, like, and it made me instantly, it changed me, because it made me angry, because it wasn't, this person wasn't, he wasn't like he was a gang member, but he wasn't, to me, he wasn't like a gang member, like a, you know, like this wasn't a politics thing. This was my friend. Like, I've known this guy since I was a kid, and it just made me really, really bitter. And I kind of fostered that throughout. Like, it was kind of like, okay, well, fuck me, well, fuck you too. Like, it just made me real bitter. And I talked to him later, and we, you know, we kicked it and stuff, and in the ways that we could while we were there. And but yeah, it was just an interesting experience, and it let me know, it reaffirmed where I was in the kind of ignorance that I was dealing with, you know. And all of it is just a control ploy, you know. Like, it's all, you know, for Southern Mexicans, it's like, okay, you know, don't do business with the blacks, don't do this, don't mess with them, you know. We're going to be the ones to use you, you know. And with the whites, the same thing, you know, we're better than them, don't mess with them, you know, let us use you. You know, the irony is the worst victimizers are people from your own ethnicity. You know, it's not people from the outside that are stabbing, you know, like, for the Southerners mostly, you know, that everybody that I saw that was getting stabbed from another Southerner.
Yep.
You know, Like it wasn't like, I mean, I've had in prison my whole time down. I had a riot on a group yard in Corpus with the Northern Mexicans, and that was an anomaly because the Northerners and blacks, had a long history of being cool. So even that was an anomaly. All of the violence I've seen, whether it be black on black, white on white, Southern Mexican, Northern Mexican on it, it's all inter-car. People are killing each other and stabbing each other and telling you that the other ethnicity ain't shit.
Hey, I'm gonna share something with you. So I remember the first time that I hit county, uh, the dorm I ended up in Supermax. It was mixed. It was a mixed unit. There was Hispanics, whites, and blacks, and and then I remember maybe like a year or two later, I started going. I went back, and at this time something had happened where they were keeping everybody pretty much segregated. So the units I ended up in, it was pretty much it was all Hispanics, with some whites sprinkled in there, and it seemed like when there was only your people, or in this case my people, in the units, there was just like all kinds of craziness going on. Like it seemed like every time somebody did something wrong, they wanted to regulate you. You had a beating coming, and it was over the most frivolous thing. So it just seemed like uh it's true what you're saying, that you have to worry about your people more than other people, because they're always, since that other element wasn't in there, for lack of a better word, um uh, 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 it just seems like everybody just had a heightened sense of awareness of what everybody else was doing, and was ready to pretty much beat you till till they got their point across.
Yeah, it's just anytime you find people in a situation like that, people are just going to cannibalize each other, and I think that's moreover just human nature. Like I think that, like we were talking, this is years ago. I was having a discussion with an older gentleman, and we were talking about the history of the Bloods and the Crips, and just in the particularly in the LA metropolitan area. And I was he asked me, what do you think would happen if the homies he was talking about the Bloods at that time. He said, what do you think would happen if all of the Bloods killed every Crip in LA and all of the Crips were eradicated, and this whole war between the Bloods and the Crips was over and there were just Bloods in LA? Like, what do you think would happen? And I said, I mean, it'd be peace. And he said, no, Bloods would start killing Bloods. Like, I mean, it just goes to the pointlessness, the senselessness of it all. Like, it's just like it's just a never-ending, a never-ending campaign of BS and violence and sorrow and tragedy, and there's never going to be a resolution, whether it's blacks and Mexicans, whites and blacks, there's never going to be any resolution because, I mean, even no one can eradicate anybody, but even if that's the case, then there's just going to be more problems with worse solutions.
Oh yeah. I have a question from Eliasman that he posted up a few minutes ago, and he wants to know, how do you feel, how do you feel about the end of hostilities, and also, and it seems like like murders in prison have increased ever since that took effect. What's your take on the end of hostilities, and other violence that or the murders that that came with that?
I don't. I disagree with murders rising in prison with the end of hostilities. I think it's probably about the same, if not a little bit less. Um, there's been a drastic change in the way that. Oh shit! We just had a freaking earthquake down here.
Oh man,
Shit.
I thought you were gonna say you saw Freeway Freddy running across your cell.
Nah, it was wow. Damn, was that an earthquake or did something just crash? Damn.
I'll look it up right now to check if we can see anything online right now.
Yeah, that was pretty big, man. Damn. Well, a live earthquake. That's a first. Yeah, damn, I lost my train of thought. Shit. Yeah, so I don't think that there's been an uptick in murders or violence since the end of hostilities. I think it's been more pronounced because of the element, the level of peace. So I think because there's been a drop in riots between ethnicities, all of I think that anything that happens now in this environment is going to be more pronounced. It's going to stick out more. I think that actually, obviously, you can't, there's no doing a little bit of bad to do a whole lot of good. So I want to be clear when, I want to preface what I'm about to say with that. But I think that the way that the cats have come out of, come from the short corridor and they come out and handle things. Obviously, I don't agree with everything, with the violence and the way that things are being done. I do think that there's going to be that element in here regardless. It's just a tinderbox in here, and I understand that some of the mechanisms used to
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
to suppress the greater outbreaks of violence is what's being done, and it doesn't make it right, and I've just been in this environment for so long that I understand the mechanics of the beast,
And right now that Eliasman asked about the end
You
of
have 60 seconds remaining.
the end of hostilities. You participated in the hunger strike, right?
Yeah, twice in Corker Shoot.
And what was the conversations like, with your people at that time, as far as the participating in the hunger strikes at that time?
There was once the word came down from Pelican Bay, there were, like I said, blacks have a sense of agency that no one else has. So all of us, we were told that these are what every ethnicity is going to do. You were told that you were asked to participate, you were encouraged to participate, but if you didn't want to, then you wouldn't be sanctioned for not participating. So that was the direction.
All right, so we'll go ahead and continue as soon as he calls back, which shouldn't take that long, as long as his tablet's working. And I just saw that message from Lisa. I'll go ahead and let him know once he calls back that it was a little earthquake. It was only a 3.6. But right now, there we go.
This call is now being
This
recorded.
is Global Tel Link. You have a prepaid call from
SILAS Johnson.
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Silas.
Okay. Hello?
All right. Thank you for calling back. But right now, before you continue with your answer, Elisa actually just dropped a message in the chat, and she is confirming that it was a 3.6 earthquake, and that it was a little one, babe. Like, don't worry. I added the last part about don't worry.
You putting me out there like that. It's so big. This must be the epicenter because that's so big. For real.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was
So we're talking about
yeah.
the end of and the
Oh, the
hostilities
hunger
and
strike.
hunger strikes. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we were encouraged. All of the blacks were encouraged to participate. But told that we wouldn't be sanctioned if we didn't participate. Um, I obviously thought it was necessary to participate. I mean, I was probably in the fourth year of a 5.5 year stay back there. One of my cellies had been back there in the shoe for 12 years, and just it was unjust, and and if it wasn't, it was a nonviolent way to bring about change. And I've always been in favor of of trying to find it, trying to find ways to overcome injustice, and seeing that everyone was united in that effort was just something that I just was not about to sit out on, so yeah, that was the dynamic back there.
And was there any conversations of anybody that should have been participating, and I'm not talking about within your car or race, but in or ethnicity, people that should have been participating in and were not, or they were acting like they were participating, but they were eating food. Was there any like rumors or anything that that you were talking about, or that you maybe overheard, uh, people just making it
Not,
seem like they were participating but they weren't?
not really, not really that I heard. Like that time was there are a few times like poignant moments in time throughout my imprisonment, and that would be up there is probably number one. Number two would be I think I talked about it on an earlier stream. The cell extraction, the mass protest in Salinas Valley in '04, where every ethnicity extracted on the yard in protest. Um, Seeing that, like it, my professor, my political science professor, Tomas Oliva, he called the black and brown communities, as far as our voting capability and power, he called us sleeping giants. And you could see, the real potential of the political power that we have right in our hands if we only mobilize and, stop all of the nonsense and use it to change things. You know, um, we all complain about conditions, and I'm not just talking about in prison, I'm talking about in society, whether it be laws or whether it be the social conditions, and, rent or gerrymandering, redlining, whatever. Like, people will complain to you till they're blue in the face, but it's rare that people step up and they actually do something to change it. And even in the state I was in, as an imbecilic gang member then, I understood the value of us coming together and doing something to affect and change, even if it meant sacrifice. So that was probably like one of the moments where I caught a glimpse of what we can really be, and who I could be if I changed my tact and created a different way of being and performing. So that was really a special time for me.
Yeah, it definitely was, because obviously, some people that were back there for decades, were able to, come out of there. Um, and I think,
And let's, and I don't want to cut you off. I just want to, I gotta say this.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Let's not forget there are brothers who died during this hunger strike. There are people who died for this. Like I think it's important. Like that's not lost on people. To everybody that's sitting in these cells and or out there in society who got home, like that reaped the benefits of everybody's struggle. People died during this, man. So and it affected change. It changed things. So you know, sacrifices were made. So I think that's important. You know. But
not
go
only
ahead. I
that,
didn't mean to cut you off. I just had to say that.
I don't even remember what I was what I was saying, but I'm gonna go ahead and touch on what you just said, that people did lose their lives. Also, people, I'm pretty sure they're living with medical complications. With that didn't pass away, but it affected their body in a negative way, and not eating food for a certain amount of time could be detrimental to your body, to your organs. So I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with health issues now, for participating in,
Yeah,
in those hunger strikes.
yeah. We had a Mexican brother on the tour with us that had diabetes. He was passing out the paste they gave him for his blood sugar, like down, to people. Like, I mean, like it's something that I'm actively writing, and working on something about just my time in corporate shoot, but like it's something that there are not enough superlatives to describe like the time, that period of time right there, man. Like to actually be a part of a revolution, because that's what it was. I mean, because things change, and attorneys help with that, obviously, and shout out to all the attorneys that assisted with the lawsuit and the settlement. But yeah, like it's that was a real heavy time, man.
Yeah. I really appreciate, you taking time out of your day, to call in. I'm pretty sure you could be doing other things like schoolwork, or talking to Lisa, or utilizing your time in a different way than you currently are right now. And definitely, want to recognize those sacrifices that you're making. Just to tune in with us, and answer the questions we have, or just to conversate with me. Just want to go ahead and thank you, for doing that, because I got I got more questions, that I want to ask you. Obviously, it's gonna take multiple conversations, to get through all of these questions that'll pop into my mind, while we're speaking. But definitely want to thank you for participating in this. I guess we could call it an experiment, social experiment.
Absolutely. This
Yeah.
is this is this is definitely a social experiment, man. Mark that down. Yeah, mark that down, man. Yeah, I mean, and thank you so much, and I appreciate you giving us this window into the world, man. To not just share our stories, man, but share who we are and share who we've become and who we continue becoming, and it means something, man, and hopefully it means something to our viewers and listeners out there. There have been a whole bunch of people along the way, whether it be people on the yard, or professors, or my the love of my life, or my family members who impacted me, and have been a part of me becoming who I am, and all of those people are a part of me. When you speak, you hear me speak, you hear them, because they poured their love into me and their time, I wouldn't be here without them. So, and I want to acknowledge them and, and the work that you're doing because it matters, man. And man, we want to try and change things, man, if we can in our little part of the globe and just, shed a little light and help somebody else and hopefully they make a good decision.
Yeah, definitely, because prison is definitely not a place that you want to spend your your life in. I know right now, if I was faced with doing some time, I wouldn't want to do it. Like especially at this age, I gotta, I'm married. I have a 5 year old daughter, and and I wouldn't want to, uh, do time. It just seems like I would be missing out on a lot. And I reflect on that now, and at that time, when I was running the streets and whatnot, I had a daughter at that time that was 3, 4, and 5, and at that time I wasn't even thinking about any of that. It was just part of the game, and what I signed up for, and but now I look at it, I'm like, man, like I wasn't thinking, like like I didn't know what I was getting myself involved in, and sometimes you get yourself into these situations and you think it's all fun and games, but people get hurt and people lose their lives, that don't expect it.
Yeah,
You're putting yourself
yeah,
at the
man.
mercy of some other people, and like you hear these stories about dudes that are about to go home. They're like 2 weeks to the house, and they get hit, or they make them go do a hit, and it's like, man, for what?
Yeah, there's probably 22, 23-year-old kid when I was in corporate shoot. He was a dropout white. He was in the cell with the dropout northerner, and the kid was like probably 3 or 4 months from the house, and just Shelly killed him in there. So like it's just, I mean, getting into a position like this, like this is like the ultimate rabbit hole. Like you come in here with 2 years and think you're gonna walk off, or 2 years, 3 years and a half, think you're gonna walk off a year and a half and be out of here, and this is not the, you know, it's this ain't a portal to success. If you work hard, and you sweat and you strive for it, you can make it that. But people come in here with their preconceived notions of what they're going to do and who they're going to be in here. And I'm sure you can attest. You come in here and it's not just the police. Somebody else is going to be telling you what to do. So if you're a rebel, if you're an individualist, if you have a rebel spirit, if you love your autonomy, you know, prison is not the place for you. And I ain't just talking about the cage and the cops. I'm talking about your own people. you know,
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
mind somebody.
yeah. I wasn't breaking rules, on the street to hit county jail and start listening to rules. Like I was like, nah, I don't. This isn't camp or the halls anymore. I used to love the halls in camp, because you could do pretty much, whatever you wanted to, do. There was no repercussion. There was no hierarchy, if you will. But then you start going to the adult institutions or county jails and whatnot, and you better fall in line, or else
You have 60 seconds remaining.
you're gonna wreck yourself real quick.
For real. Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
All right, I
Yeah.
know we're getting short right
Hey,
now on this call, but I think this is gonna be the last call for the night. If you have time tomorrow, we could definitely
okay.
run something tomorrow,
This
and
call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
do it like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me again. And to all of the viewers and listeners, I thank you guys for tuning in and tapping in with us. We appreciate you guys, and man, we appreciate the love, and we send the love right back.
All right, then with that, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the stream, and you guys go ahead and have a good night, and we'll be back tomorrow.
All right. Peace.